Hello everyone, in this video, I'm gonna show you how I prepare my worksheet for printing. It's similar to the previous video. I will import transaction data from a CSV file. I go to the File menu and choose Import. I select Replace Current Sheet and leave the rest as default, then click Import Data. Now I have a plain table with 8 columns, but it doesn't look good yet. Before formatting it, let's take a look at how it looks in Print Preview. Go to the File menu, choose Print, or simply press Ctrl P as a shortcut. At first glance, it looks okay, but if I look more closely, some text or characters are cut off. The second page doesn't have a header row. The QTY column name needs fixing, and the column sizes needs adjustment. If you work in a company that requires hard copies of your worksheets, this part is for you. But first, I need to make this table look better. So I go back to the sheet 1. First, I will change the QTY column name to quantity. Then I will format the first row by selecting it and changing the font. I used to use Poppins because it's similar to Avantgarde, which I love but can't afford, so Poppin it is. Then I make it bold, center align, and add some background color. I like using dark cyan 3 for the background and white for the text. Apparently, Poppins looks bigger than I thought. Let me change the font again to Montserrat. If you want to apply alternating row colors, go ahead. I explained that in the previous video. But for now, I will stick with this plain white background. Nowadays, Google Sheets often suggest converting your table into a style version. See? The alternating row colors, the font, the color, and the drop-downs. If this is what you need, just go with that. But I prefer to do it manually. Call me old-fashioned, but I like having the freedom to design the worksheet exactly the way I want. Now, I want to adjust the column sizes. There are a few ways to do this. First, I select column A through H, then right-click, choose Resize column A to H. Here, I got two options. I can set an exact number for the width, like 100 or 200, but that usually doesn't look good with my table, so instead I choose Fit to Data, then click OK. Now the cells look more readable. If you don't like this method, you can also do it manually by double-clicking the border between two columns. For example, I will make this payment column too narrow. To fix it, I just double-click the border between columns B and C, like this. See? It looks good again. Now, if I scroll down the table, the header row disappears. To keep it visible, I will select the first row, go to the View menu, hover over Freeze, and choose one row, because I only want to freeze the first row. Now, when I scroll down, I can always see the column names, which makes the table easier to read. Next, I want to format the price column, so it shows a $sign on the left side of the cells. Since this table has 100 rows of data, I can highlight cells H2 to 101 manually, or use name box up here. Another way is just to click on column H. So there are a few different options. Now that the price column is highlighted, I will go to the Format menu, hover over number, and instead of using currency or custom currency, I will choose custom number format. I want the $sign to appear on the left side of each cell. So I type the $symbol inside double quotation marks, like this. Then add an asterisk to fill the space, followed by the hash symbol or pound symbol or autotorque, whatever you call it, a comma, then two more hash symbols, a 0, a decimal point, and 2 zeros. This format will display the number just like the built-in currency option, with 2 decimal places, and a comma as the thousand separator. Click Fly, and look, now the prices are nicely formatted and look tidy. Alright, for a simple transaction report in a small office, I think this is good enough. Now let's preview how this table would look if I printed it on paper. Go to the File menu and choose Print. Alright, I'm going to explain a lot about the print settings page here. First, under the print section, I can choose between current sheet or selected cells. This option is useful if you had already highlighted a specific block of cells before opening the print preview. In this case, I will choose current sheet because I want to print the entire sheet. Next, under paper size, I usually go with A4 because it's the most commonly used paper size in my country. Then for the page orientation, I choose landscape so that all the columns fit on the page and the font size still look readable. If I try selecting portrait, the font becomes too small and the layout doesn't look good. So I will switch it back to landscape. Under scale, I choose fit to width because I want all the columns to be fully visible on the same page. If I choose normal or 100%, the last 2 columns won't fit and they will be pushed to a second page. If I pick fit to height, it will try to squeeze all the data vertically into one page, which makes everything too small. Fit to page has a similar effect, compressing both width and height, and that's not ideal. You can also enter a custom number to manually set the scaling percentage, but I will stick with fit to width. Under margins, I can select normal, narrow, wide, or custom numbers, which lets me manually adjust each side. I will go with custom and set 0.5 inches for the top, the right, and bottom, and 0.7 inches for the left margin. Next, there are set column page breaks if I want to manually split the table into sections. You can drag the line to adjust page boundaries, but in my case, I want all the columns to appear together on the same page, so I will cancel this. Under the formatting drop-down, I can choose whether to show grid lines or notes. Then under the page order, I can decide the print direction. If I had selected normal scale earlier, the option over then down would print pages from left to the right first, then move down. So it fills the columns before going to the next row of pages. On the other hand, down then over prints from top to bottom first, then moves to the next set of columns on the right. In my case, I reset the scale to fit to width. You can play around with these settings, but I will go with what looks good enough to me. Under alignment, I can adjust how the table is positioned on the page. The horizontal alignment doesn't make much difference because I am using fit to width earlier, but I can still change the vertical alignment to top, center, or bottom. See how it moves? I will leave it as default. Then under the headers and footers, I can include things like the page numbers in the bottom right corner, the workbook title in the top left, sheet name in the top right, and current date and time in the bottom left. If I turn those on, they will all show up when I print, but I prefer to keep the corners clean, so I will leave them unchecked. Finally, at the bottom, we have the repeat frozen rows option. Since I froze the header row earlier, I want it to appear at the top of every printed page. I will make sure this is checked. The option to repeat frozen columns is grayed out because I have not frozen any columns. So that's it for adjusting the print settings. When I click next, I will get the regular print dialog. For now, since I don't have a printer available, I will just choose Save as PDF and download it to my computer. Now, the last thing I want to show you is how to filter the data before printing. Let's say your supervisor wants you to print only the transactions that are paid successfully and sorted by the highest total payment. To do that, I will first create a new column called total payment. Let's insert it here and adjust the width so everything fits nicely. To match the header style, I will click on cell H1, use pen format tool from the toolbar, then click on I1 to copy the same formatting. Now, to calculate total payment, I simply multiply the quantity by price each. In cell I2, I type equals G2 times H2, then press enter. Google Sheets may show a suggestion to autofill the rest of the column. If it does, just click to accept it. But if that doesn't show up, you can drag the fill handle, that's the small blue circle in the bottom right corner of the cell, all the way down to the last row. Or, an even quicker way, copy cell I2, then select cell I3 to I101 and press Ctrl V. You will get the same result. To copy the formatting style, just highlight column H, then click the pen format tool and click on column I. If the column width changes after that, just readjust it manually. Before we go any further, notice that the payment status and shipment status columns are text fields, but the words aren't capitalized consistently. We should have success, send, cancel, or being prepared with capital letters. Let's fix that quickly. Select both columns, then right click and choose Insert to Columns Right. Copy the two column headers into the new columns. Now I will copy the data from column D into the new column F using the proper function, which capitalize each word. In F2, type equals proper D2 and press enter. Google Sheets should offer to autofill the rest. Click to accept. Do the same for column E. In G2, type equals proper E2 and press enter. Then accept the autofill. Next, we will replace the original columns with these corrected values. Highlight column F and G, copy them, right-click on column D, choose Paste Special, then choose Values Only. Finally, we can delete columns F and G. We don't need them anymore. Alright, now I need to create a filter. I will select the first row, go to the data menu, and choose Create a Filter. Since your supervisor wants to see only successful payments, I will click the filter icon on the payment status. Then I will uncheck Cancel and Blanks, so only successful transactions are shown. After that, I click OK. And now, we only see the filtered result. Next, the supervisor wants the data to be sorted by the highest total payment. So I will click on the total payment column, then sort Z to A. Now, the table is sorted in descending order. Let's say your supervisor also wants you to highlight the total payments that are bigger than $3,000. I can do that by applying conditional formatting. Go to the Format menu, then click Conditional Formatting. A panel will open on the right side of the screen. Now under apply to range, select I2 to I101. For format rules, choose greater than and type 3000 as the value. Then pick a highlight color. I will choose yellow. See? Now I have a nice yellow highlight for those high value payments. If I print this again, the table will still look exactly the same, just like what we saw earlier in sheet 1. So that's it. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching and see you.